welcome to our video on how to solder the large switches for your ROV project. We covered basic soldering in our video before, so if you haven't watched that one, you should probably see that one first for the basic soldering process. We're going to start with a stripped Cat5 cable. We have our four colored pairs, and I'm going to show you what's happening with one pair. We're going to start here. We're going to cut about 3 inches of this wire. This is for a jumper wire. We'll give you more information on that later in the video. Right now, just know that it's for a jumper wire. And then I'm going to take that wire and I'm going to separate the two wires in the pair. I'm going to work with one wire right now. So I straighten it out a little bit, and for the jumper wire, I'm going to strip both ends of the wire. Remember, I'm going to be stripping and pull straight out. Okay? You can wrap the wire around your finger. Okay? Another technique is to use your thumb very tightly, maybe your nail, to help you when you pull that wire straight out. A little quick also gives you some assistance for that. Then I want to make sure that my strands are all twisted together for a good mechanical bond. So I'm going to twist those, and I'm going to twist these. Then I tell you that this is a jumper wire, so I need to come back to the wire that's attached to the cable, and I'm going to separate those a little bit, not a lot, just a little bit, and I'm going to strip those wires. Twist them together. They're very nice. And then the solid orange or the solid color going to the solid color jumper. And what I want to do, I don't really care about the tips of the copper. What I care about is where that insulation is. I want the insulation to be in the same place. The ends of the wire, that's going to get cut off anyway. So with the insulation matched at the insulation, I'm going to cross those wires, and with them crossed, when I twist them, they're going to twist together very tightly, and they're going to make a very, very good mechanical bond. And then I make sure that the other side of my wire is still twisted together well. Then I'm going to put my wire into my helping hands. I'm going to tin these wires. So add flux. Again, I like to poke when I'm doing tinning wires. I like to put my wire into the flux. And then I'm ready to tin these two pieces of wire. So with my iron clean, add a really nice big puddle, and I'm going to tin these the same way we showed you in the other video. When the puddle hits the wire, the solder flows onto the wire, and then I put just a little bit of extra solder down next to the insulation. Same thing on both sides. Boom, add a little bit, and then those wires are tinned, and I have a jumper wire. When I'm finished, those wires are going to look like this. Jumpers on both sides, soldered with the insulation close to each side, and then I'm going to do the same thing with the other pairs.
Right, I'm going to show you how to solder the lug. This guy here is the lug. You notice that this barrel here, you can currently see through it, but that's where we're going to put solder inside this barrel and then the wire. Ultimately, we're going to put a screw through this hole and it will attach to one of the switches. So we want to make sure that that hole stays solder free. So when you put it in your helping hand, we recommend that you put the lug such that it is horizontal in nature, vice vertical. Okay, so horizontal. Okay, again, same process. You're cleaning your iron, putting a nice puddle of solder. As you saw, I like to dip my solder in the, solder in the flux. And then I'm going to feed the solder into this barrel. It takes about 3 inches or so of solder to fill one barrel on the lug. I like to heat from below. It's up to you where you heat from. But then the solder, so all I'm doing is feeding in, and that's it. Okay, again, should be super fast. If it's not fast, your iron is likely dirty or you don't have a big enough puddle of solder on your iron. Okay, I cleaned my iron. I'm going to put it back away for a moment. I'm going to take these 2 wires that have the jumpers on them that my partner did a few minutes ago, and you notice they're pretty long. If I compare the length of that wire to this barrel, the wire is obviously much longer than the barrel. We want the wire to be about the same size or just a little bit shorter. If this wire protrudes through the barrel, it gets in the way of the screw that ultimately we're going to put on. So you can measure, and then we're going to trim these down just a little bit, so that now when I put that in, it's about the size of the barrel. Okay, all right, so again, I'm providing puddle on my soldering iron. I'm going to heat now this tinned lug. Again, I like to heat from the bottom. It really makes no difference what side. Once you see that solder start to liquefy, you should be able to push your wires in. You'll hold them for just a second. And they are secure. I'm cleaning my iron really quickly so I can put it back. Now, these alligator clips are going to be super hot right now, so I'm not going to remove this. The heat transfer through the lug to the alligator clips. These will burn you if you touch it currently. So, when we're done, it'll look like this. You're going to put a lug on every jumper where the 2 wires are together and on the end of that jumper. So each wire pair has 2 lugs, one on the jumper end and one on the 2 together and one on the end of the jumper. Okay, when we're finished with all of these wires, we're going to attach them via screws. The lugs via screws to the switch, and your wires will look something like this. The red and black are your power wires. Eventually that's where the connection will be to the battery. And then if you notice these jumper wires, on this side I've got the orange, and on the opposite side here I've got the orange-white. over here, they're opposite, so they've crossed in between. The reason for that cross is so that when you operate your switch, it goes to both directions, up, down, side to side, however you have your motor positioned. If you don't have this cross, your switch will not operate in both directions. Another thing to note with this switch is that all of the lugs are straight up and down, and they're in there nice and tight. I can't move them. If they're loose or they're bent to the sides, there's a high probability that you may have a short, or you may not have very good connectivity because it's loose. Make sure they're tight and as best as possible straight up and down on your switch.